that.
Man, I have to talk to you about it after this. It's heavy, man. Hey, man, I was with Sincere earlier, man. I got a haircut, and what we talked about just manifested itself.
Oh
Ah,
man. Hey,
dang.
we're live, man. Sorry we're a little late.
That's
I'm
all
running
right.
late.
Yeah,
I have some technical difficulties. I'm on the laptop. As you can see, the quality is a little bit different tonight, so I apologize for that.
yeah,
But I
yeah.
want to have this conversation, so we here.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
We
Let's
here,
do
man.
it.
How you good? How you doing, good brother? How your week so far, man?
Wonderful, wonderful. Can't complain. Nobody's listening. You know what I'm
Yeah, I see.
saying?
I see you over there trimmed up. You know what I'm saying? Sincere got you right, huh?
For sure, for sure. My brother Sincere got me right today, for sure.
That's what's up, man. Well, you know what the topic is, man. This is I think that's why we've been having I've been having a lot of technical difficulty because this is a heavy topic tonight. You know what
Ah,
I'm saying?
for sure.
And we're talking about the elders, man. You know
Hmm.
the ones we love and cherish. You know the riders. You know, and you know once we salute the riders, we got to understand that from my point of view, anyway. I can't speak for everybody. From my point of view, we had a lot of elders that let us down, some unknowingly, some after they figured out the fact. I still just went with the program. I feel like, you know what I'm saying? And some, like, you know, that nowadays they'll talk more civil rights and stuff, but if you really go back and really pay attention to back in the days, a lot of people hated Martin Luther King. A lot of the other churches, a lot of the black people in the community. Now everybody hold him up, but they're not going to tell the truth about how many people was against him because he was a rebel and he was radical to them back then. You know what I'm
Very much
saying?
so. Hmm.
So yeah, so you know, and then when I brought it up, I've been wanting to have this conversation, and I think we're gonna unpeel this a lot. We're not gonna try to squeeze it all in tonight because this is an ongoing. Because it's not, of course, it's a two things can be right at the same time, you know. But we're gonna give our point of view on the what was done right, what was done wrong, what was in the ins and outs of that, man. So I know it kind of I seen you light up a little bit when I brought it up last week. You like, yeah, let's dive into it. So what's the first thing when you hear someone even question or put that question out to did our elders fail us? What first comes to mind? What you think about?
The first thing comes to mind for me is the quote, and I'll keep quoting this and credit the author of this saying, and that's Dr. Wesley Muhammad, when he said, "God is in the nuances." It's comparative to someone saying the old quote that we've all heard: "The devil is in the details." Depending on how you want to look at that. Okay, so when you bring that up, have our elders failed us? You got to peel, like you just said. There's a lot of onion to peel. Which level we looking at? We looking personally. We looking, from where we from, our community. We looking, nationally, internationally. How we looking at that? There's a thousand ways from Sunday on the way you want to look at it. I always first say look internally. Start at home first. That's the first thing I say. You start at home, and that may be true to some people. It was not true to me. Okay, and I was saying the day earlier on the Facebook Live when I was out riding, um, is you got to really sit back and think about, you know, what some people have accomplished. It may not be major accomplishments like, having a cure for cancer or being a George Washington Carver, a genius mind like that or something to that effect, or even a most honorable Elijah Muhammad and what he did. It might not be even to the level of Dick Gregory. Okay. And the brother did quite a bit other than just a comedian and people saw him at the end of his life. The point is you peel back and look what got not just got you here physically. We know, we adults here, we know what got us here physically, but what did they endure? Okay. So you already kind of see the direction that my mind would go. However, I mentioned this on Sincere and Nicey's podcast Sunday when I jumped in for a moment, is some of our family, and I say family in a general term, in a broad term, everybody wasn't riding. You just
What's
said
up?
it earlier.
What's up?
You know, people can pull back those newspaper articles on how black folks, some black folks was really against Dr. King. They really were against him. The real pressure came on him, in my opinion, okay, from my studies, is when he vehemently opposed the Vietnam War. So that started in the late 60s, early 70s. And you know, you have to think about it, even put it in perspective now. Just speaking to Dr. King, you think of someone, you know, in 2003, when you got your cousin, your child, your son, your husband, your daughter, your mother going into combat, and he's saying, no, I'm opposed to this. That's when he got serious opposition from every angle. Okay. So who were those people and why did they do that? Was that some family members, or, you know, that was really out there stomping? I ain't talking about somebody just had an opinion. There's a difference. You just have an opinion. Say, I mean, he shouldn't go at it like that. Or you be like the sister that stabbed him. You know, she was the FBI operative, light-skinned lady. I forget her name. Uh, or the dude that was a cameraman. These are people that are confirmed FBI operatives. And other than the cameraman, I think he was an immigrant. But the lady, she was foundational Black American. She was from the quote unquote family. How we looking at that? How you dealing with that? You know what I'm saying? The one thing I look at when you look at the our people of today, you know, meaning, you know, not just my generation, but the generations a few before me and those who come after me, you're gonna kind of, to a degree, depending on how close you are to your kin, you're gonna reflect who they are. You see what I'm saying? If you solid, your people most likely gonna be solid. And I'm just talking lineage here. Most likely, you think about some of the people you know, and you're like, man, yeah, his dad's solid, his mom's solid. You know, most of them, you know, you got people who crazy here and there, but for the most part, yeah, most of them, 85% of them is thorough. And you flip the coin and say, okay, well, that dude been shiesty all his life. You know, a girl always been, you know, pulling hustles and scams on cats.
Yeah.
Look back, just go back a little bit, you know, climb that tree and say, oh, okay, well, oh, I kind of see where some of this might come from. And it don't have to even be to that degree. It could be to the degree of someone just not being mentally stable. You know, I also mentioned on their show from last Sunday about the look at Dr. King. Let's go back to Dr. King for a moment. He had a brother, A.D. King, and there was an untold story that I stumbled upon. Brother did a very excellent job. I love to get credit where credit is due. I can't remember the brother's name, but he has a channel on Instagram. He did a whole 2 parts, you know, story on A.D. King, Dr. King's brother. He showed pictures of them together. He was a pastor. His church in Louisville, I think it was in Louisville, somewhere in Kentucky, got firebombed. He was down with him. And when Dr. King was assassinated, he was a story below at the Lorraine Motel, and it weighed on him for a lot of his life. Now, why do I bring that up? Okay, because you're like, okay, well, how's that in contrast to someone being the opposite of what a Dr. King is? It's not him that I'm pointing at. I'm pointing at someone who is his daughter, and I'm not throwing any shade on the sister, but she is in, you know, almost the antithesis of a Dr. King and even an A.D. King. And I think is her name, Alvina King. I think that's her name. That's his daughter. Okay. We don't know. She's not certifiably crazy to what I understand, but she's, you know, in contrast to some of the beliefs and the teachings of our good brother, Dr. King. So you think about that and say, okay, they came from the same tree to a degree. So how did this person go this way and this person go that way? You can look at a Dr. Leonard Jeffries, okay, who was a great scholar. Guess who his nephew is? Hakeem Jeffries. You see what I'm saying? And you see Hakeem Jeffries is far away from any of the teachings of Dr. Leonard Jeffries. You see what I'm saying? So it's not necessarily somebody that's just like out here, a bumbling buffoon or a bootlick or a coon. It could be someone that's just in opposition that's not necessarily sharing constructive, what I call constructive ideals that's going to push you forward. They may think they are, but maybe they're not. And see, that's a point that we get to right here and say, okay, well, what are we looking for from them? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Nah, and like I said, it's not of course, it's a lot of different ways to peel it. The way I see it, of course, with respect with everything the ancestors did, because we brought it up last week. We wouldn't even be able to do what we're doing now. for what they did, even in their failures. Their failures pushed us forward. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, of course, anybody can pick out failures, but even their failures pushed us forward. You know, and it's our job to learn and not fail the same ways again. So my point of where I would come from is more on the mindset of a lot of elders that I deal with. And it's not, you can't paint everybody with a broad brush, of course, right?
For sure.
But in big enough, too big enough for me, numbers, we have elders that just kind of good with the status quo. You know, we got those riders, and then we got those ones that and let me say this, like my mom, one of the best sweetheart ladies in this world, right? Do not want to push no line, do not want to tote that into and that's when we got to say, like, there's nothing wrong with that, but it is at the same time, right? Because if you're scared to push that line, you're kind of harming our people at the same time. Other coaches, they just gonna push that line off top. They're not gonna go in, and a lot of it got to do with our religion is teach us to be submissive and, you know what I'm saying, obedient. And because those are the things I was taught as a youngster. I was taught that when I started running away at 11, 12 years old, I didn't realize to older, what was I running away from? And it was that programming. And like I always tell my mom, because she hates when I bring it up, and I was like, running away was one of the best things for me mentally to help me form the person I became. Because if it was up to my mom, I would just be a hardworking guy at the plant and going to church 3 times a week. Like, that's what she raised me to be, just a good old deacon, a good hardworking deacon, and not to say that those are not good people, because I know, you know, I grew up with, I got people like that in my family, but it don't take us to the next level as a people. And sometimes my problem with a lot of elders that I talk to, and I tell them all the time, a lot of our elders are more focused on what they have while they're here and where they go when they die. You see what I'm saying? And to me, that's a selfish thing, because I'm not heavy religious, so I really kind of avoid the religious talk, because like I tell my brothers from each religion, at the end of the day, no matter what we're preaching and no matter what we believe in, the system got us. So my thing is, let's obtain the right type of power and get ourselves in the right position. Then we can have those deep conversations about who religion is, this and that and that and this, you know, and this respect to everybody religion, because my whole thing is whatever makes you a better person, do it, you know. So I'm not even here to even debate on religion, but my thing is when we lead with it, but it's not getting us the power. Once again, you know, I always circle back to power. No matter what we're talking about, we gotta, even if you're gonna be talking about religion, what's the power in it for our people? And so, and that's just my point of view. I can't look at it no other kind of way, you know. So my problem is a lot of our elders, good-hearted people, but there was no power pushed to the next generation. Like my mom taught me how to be a good man, respectable, and those are a lot of traits that I still got. And I remember being young, and the people were like, "Man, your mama raised you right." Even though I was in the streets, even though I was a runaway, they could tell that she had put it right in me young, right? So she raised me right morally and behaviorally, but she didn't teach me as a black man and my dad. How do I survive as a black man? How do I navigate it? What do I do when there's no jobs out there? What is this business thing? What is these investments things? What, you know what I'm saying? So, and like I told her, you can only give us what grandma gave you, but that's still a fact that we didn't have it. And it's not a blame thing. It's just a fact that we didn't have that knowledge. So my problem is, like, I had this conversation with my grandmother, and she was like, you know, grandfather, great guy, and he was a great guy, but he died. When he died, she was just wasn't left anything, put it like that, right? And to me, are you a great man if you work every day all your life and pay the bills and go to church every Sunday and then die without your family and leave your family nothing? Or are you a better guy if you never go to church? You might have partied, you might have had a bunch of girls, you might have did this, you might have did that, but when you die, you left your family all kind of riches, wealthness, and not even just that, the mindset of how to grow this. You see what I'm saying? A lot of the times we look at the person, the preacher or the church person that don't do nothing in the community, don't put no money in the community, don't mentor no kids, don't do none of this, but they go to church and they work hard. So that's a better person in our eyes than the guy that might be living life on the edge a little bit, might be messing with a couple different girls. You get what I'm saying? I'm talking about from the morally to who really hands on the community, because you can have a bunch of, and that's why I like my Wealth is Gangster brand is all about that. It's easy to call out the guy on the street corner. It's easy to call out the guy that's going down the wrong road. But when we gonna call out the mamas, the aunties, the uncles, the dads, you know what I'm saying, the preachers, the hardworking men that we say hardworking men, but what they when they get off, all they do is go home and drink their beer and eat their meal. They don't do nothing for the community. So it's my job, because since I was that street guy that was told by my family I wasn't gonna be nothing, I was gonna be in the pen, this and that, right? I was told that from a lot of, and then I turn around and their kids the one that's in the prisons and doing this. So like the 2-parent households and all that. Yeah, I've seen that spin off, and they kids go to prison, and the single mother household breeds the child that really changes the world and do some magnificent things. So me bringing up this conversation is only to just bring it as a conversation, like no blame game, but we got to be real. We have a lot. I go back and forth with a lot of elders right now about what Democratic points of view. They've been voting Democrats since they were 18. They 60 years old, and they still telling me Democrat is the way to vote. To me, that's kind of treasonous on your people. If you've been doing that, I told you how bad I feel. I've been voting Democrats since 18, and I'm 40. You know what I'm saying? 40, and I felt bad because I'm like, hold on. I woke up to like I'm tripping. Like, why am I voting against my people? This and that. So you telling me a 60-year-old you never came to that conclusion? I don't think you love your people as much as you think you do. And so that's what I bring up this conversation, because they're always gonna win on the morally side with the good heart, because they come from a pure place. But sometimes your pure place that you're coming from is still guiding your people in the wrong direction, like Dr. King said. What he said, I think I led my people into a burning house. And we have people that still been following those same rules that he kind of woke up to at the end. They never woke up to, and they kept pushing us to go down these same roads. And that's what I mean when I say have our elders failed us? Not like they still taught us how to be good-hearted people and respectable and this and that, but did they tell us how to attain power? Did they tell us how to really navigate? And when we talk about all these black men in prison, all the black men I know that come from prison come from religious households. Sure. It wasn't like they ain't come from no devil worshiping household. They didn't come from so they come from the Bible teaching. For sure. But what we didn't connect is, even with all that Bibleness, they didn't teach them how to survive as a black man in this world, other than some street stuff, other than some stuff that we just pushed ourselves into. You see what I'm saying? And that's what I mean about the failure. Not as a personally, like a person jab or this and that. I'm talking about as a mindset, as they was pushing us forward. Even though, like I say, even when we fail forward. But mindset wise, the way I teach and talk to people now, I have never, and I talk to kids all the time. They tell me I've never heard a black man talk the way you do. And I'm like, you're 14, 15, 16, you don't have an uncle, dad, grandpa, nobody that pours into you about who you are and what's so powerful about that. So that's what I mean about that. The mindset wasn't pushed down.
No, I get it. Now I want to touch on that last piece you said, because that's really important about the youth and when they say those things to you, because I've heard them as well. Here's what I'll say to that when it comes to the youth and your question and thinking, okay, well, you've never heard anybody say this. It's possible they have. And let me tell you from personal experience, sometimes, well, more times than most of us want to believe, our children, our cousins, our nieces, our nephews, our brothers and sisters, okay, those of us either under our charge or younger than us in age or in the mind, they might not need to hear it from you. They don't hear it from you. Their ears will go numb and deaf because they're probably tired of hearing it from you or hearing something from you. When they hear it from a different voice and one that they can connect with, however they connect with you, the message may come across a little differently. You see what I'm saying? Even if you're coming from a 2-parent household, it really wouldn't matter. I always talk about proximity when it comes to, people like to say black crime, this, that, and the third. Proximity plays a part in more ways than one. I always talk about familiarity will breed contempt. That don't take your kids away from that. Your kids can come so familiar with you, not only will they turn their ears off to you, but they'll be contemptuous and go the other way in their subconscious to spite you. Okay, I'm not speaking out the side of my neck, and I don't have those issues. I should never have them for the most part, my wife and I. The point I'm making is when you see that outside, okay, of the big ugly gorilla that's in the room, white supremacy, we're not touching that directly. Indirectly, it's changed our lives. Okay, it changed our lives. Jim Crow laws, when they come out of slavery and was doing better than the majority of the country, from 60, I heard the number 60 for sure, but like 2,000 black towns that were already established, this, that, and the other, coming from nothing. It wasn't like you was cut a check, like when you leave from prison, they give you that little $200 or whatever the case may be, go and get off on your own. Yeah, some of them had land that was quote unquote given to them to a degree, or they sharecropped on the land. So we're not too many generations from that. You see what I'm saying? So that trauma is still there, whether that trauma is direct or indirect trauma. And that goes to your other point about, why wouldn't that mindset be there? Some people, and that's why I brought up the Alveda King thing, they could be broken. Her father died, A.D. King died under, mysterious circumstances. It was said that he was a wonderful swimmer, and he died face down in a pool. And when there was a private autopsy done, his marks and stuff all over his body to say that he was killed or there was foul play. You see what I'm saying? How do we know what that did to that sister? How do we know what that did to anyone? His wife just passed a few years ago. I think her name was Naomi King. You see what I mean? We don't know what that can do psychologically. I was in another conversation, I was talking about how, I'm gonna bring it back to your story and the one that you put out there openly. And it's very courageous for you to do that, to tell your story like it is. Okay. When you tell that story about how you stepped away and was quote unquote a runaway at a very early age, out there living the life of a grown man at a very early age. That was a path, and I'm not going to get religious on you. I'm going to get, I call it universal, or what some people would say spiritual. That path was already laid out for you. The path was already laid out for you to affect the youth that you affect where you are. And we had this conversation a couple of years ago or last year, I can't remember exactly, about certain places we are. It could be like almost like a dead zone. You're the only one screaming against the entire crowd. And like, don't y'all hear me talking to you? Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? And you almost feel like you're living in a world of like the movie Idiocracy. You're like, oh my goodness, what am I? You think you're kind of going crazy here, but you're not. I always put it back on the math as well. All right. The math that I learned from knowledge in what we call knowledge in 120, because it plays a part in everyday life. And the everyday life I'm talking about is there's only 5% that's going to get it. Okay. In those teachings, they're called the poor righteous teachers, not poor as in wealth. Okay. Poor righteous teachers. And then there's the 10%. They know the lessons of the 5%, but they'll take all the knowledge and run with it. Okay. They're greedy. And then there's 85%, the blind, deaf, and dumb. And literally, that is a literal, in a literal sense, blind, deaf, and dumb. Okay. They call them poison people eaters or the useless eaters. You see what I'm saying? And again, that's not from what I consider a religious standpoint. I didn't take that from a religious standpoint, even though it came from a religious ideology. I didn't take it that way. I took it that way as to say, okay, look at this from a macro sense in the entire world. It's your community down to the people that you know. How did that affect them? How did the things affect them, what they went through? You see what I'm saying? I want to get too far off the topic and bring it right back to power. Okay. They weren't equipped. Some were equipped. That's the 10% that I always talk about. Some were equipped. And you know who some of those people were? The ones that we talk about all the time. And I'm gonna call certain groups like the Boule, okay, And the Boule is not just like a group that you can just jump in and join. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I'm not talking from direct experience. I don't have any affiliation with any what we also call the Divine Nine. All right, the W.E.B. Du Bois, to my understanding, coined that term in the early 1900s when some of these black fraternities and sororities were getting started in their early days. And this is not to disparage none of them, because there are some that do great work. However, all right, what happened, in the formation of those? What were you saying? That talented 10th myth. It's a myth, if you're asking me. Mm-hmm. So you say, what happened to, just a good-natured, good-hearted man that was a barber that put his kids through school? Did he, impart good wisdom onto his children? Did he impart good wisdom onto his community? Was he a community builder? We don't know. Everybody's story ain't told. You see, I'm not one necessarily that's going to cast aspersion on and say why you didn't do this. I'm going to do what we're doing right now. And Mr. Fuller talked about this. The only reason I'm going to talk about history is to say I'm not going to repeat those mistakes from history. Whatever history you want to go to, you want to go to ancient Egypt or whatever the case may be. Where did they make a mistake? Where did they make a mistake in the civil rights era? Where did they make a mistake in the Black Power movement era? Where did they make a mistake during the Civil War? You name it. The list goes on and on and on. What am I going to take from that, me, myself, and impart that wisdom, get that knowledge, impart that wisdom onto those who are willing to pick up the game and learn? And it's everybody ain't going to do it. We got to realize it's going to be a lot of folks that's going to be high for the lawnmower. You see what I'm saying? And
there's nothing wrong with that, but we got to, I feel like one of my jobs is to put it out there, right? Because if you're in the community and everybody say they're in the community, but it's decades and nothing ever changes in the community, like what we doing? Like, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, okay, if I can do this, if I can do the school, if I can do all this stuff by myself with no institution money, but I'm looking at Black people with institution money and been getting it for decades and have done nothing. Is it now that's deeper than not having the knowledge. That's deeper.
Sure.
That now we get to a point where we're just gonna tote the line, keep these checks coming, be quiet, be a good old boy, and that's detrimental right there. And see, that's a part of our community that we don't want to call out, because when we call that part out, we're talking about our aunts and our uncles, and we talking about some good people. Like not that they're bad people, but to me, that is bad though. Because you know what I'm saying, and I get it. Everybody's job is not to be a rider for the community. Everybody's job is not to, but it's everybody's job to make our community a little bit better. If it's if you have a church and you don't have a youth program, but all the people who are part of your church got kids and grandkids and nephews and nieces in and out the system, that's a problem to me. Okay. Because that should be one of your jobs. You get money from these families every Sunday. So like, of course you can't change the world, you can't do all this, but you can't even have a program that at least try to combat it. You can't have a program that at least these kids can funnel through. You can't have a program where you build with other community activists in the community about, hey, this is what I see, what's going on with my, you know what I'm saying, my sister so-and-so son is in and out, and I'm tired of doing this, and these boys need a job, and these boys need this and that. This is what I do on a day-to-day. You know who I never see in these conversations? Good-hearted Black preachers from Temple. Never. I never. I'm not calling them all out, because I got some cool pastors that I'm cool with personally. But they'll tell you, because I don't bite my tongue, they'll tell you that I done told them, but you're not doing nothing for the people. And sometimes we mix it up. We don't want to say nothing to Mr. So-and-so and Mrs. So-and-so, because they just good-hearted people. You know what I'm saying? But we'll call out, look, what they always say, Pookie and Ray Ray ain't no good, this and that. But look, who is Pookie and Ray Ray grandma?
Oh, there you go. I knew we were going to get there.
That's Miss Ray Ray that you scared to call out.
I knew we were going to get there.
You see where I'm coming from? So
I do.
I'm just talking about just the psyche of the way our community is set up, that we can demonize these group of people that was I would say left no option, because we could say they have an option. Everybody can go get a job. But like I tell people, I come from that world. Okay. You're not going to see me at 14, 15 years old seeing tens of thousands of dollars and then tell me to go work for $300 a week. It's just not happening. You know what I'm saying? What you should have told me is, well, like I tell kids now, forget that money. I can show you how to make that and more in stocks. I can show you how to make that and more in real estate. You know what I'm saying? So that's how you combat that. See, what we try to do is we try to hit our community with the morally, where you know you're gonna go to hell, you know you're gonna go to prison, you know you're gonna go to this, you know you're gonna go to that. But when your lights is cut off and you hungry and you starving, but you got a way to feed your family right there. Yeah, after the fact, you're gonna be like, yeah, you're dumb, you this and that. Sure. Instead of saying that, you could be like, I didn't guide him right. I didn't guide her right. I should have told them about this and that. I should have stepped my game up, because I have Dr. Robert Muhammad, one of my good brothers out of Austin. Okay. And I'm gonna be having a podcast with him real soon, because he had posted a picture about a football coach. Cussing, you know, we all, when you play football, Pop Warner or middle school, you had this moment when you had a black man that loved you, and he was cussing and fussing and crying because he didn't want you to go down the wrong road. You know what I'm saying? Everybody has similar to that moment, or you seen somebody in your team and you kind of seen somebody that go through that moment. Absolutely. That you was on the team, right? Absolutely. But like I told him, that dude said nothing wrong. The dude he's pouring his heart out. He really loved that kid. But why he's not going to connect to 90% of those kids or 95% of those kids? Because that kid, which was me, going to look at you and like, you telling me to do right, you telling me to stay out of trouble, but I don't want your life. You struggling, coach. Like I seen your car. I see your old lady don't even like you, coach. I heard that you was down there at the park drunk because you stressed out about this and that, coach. So you telling me to do right and you don't even like your life. So I'm not gonna listen to you. See, we got to be real about the whole conversation.
Let's go.
Because we'll talk morally. Yeah, it looks good when the coach is yelling at him, but the coach not being no example. Right. And that's why the kids like me, because I come from that world and I'm being an example. Like I get up every day and this is what I'm doing. I'm working hard. I'm stashing my money. I don't spend my money on this. I do this. I take care of my health. Like this is my life. I really live this. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not talking out the side of my neck and then they over here seeing me just tripping out and they're like, nah. You said he run business and he gonna work harder than the person that worked for him. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like he really lived that. That man go with that. That man eat sandwiches and this and that just because he's stashing money, because he's investing money, because he's really about. See, they respect that more, and that's why we went to the street. That's why we went to the streets, because no matter what Mama was saying, they got on the street corner and said, "Say, man, let me show you how to make $100 in the next hour." And don't get me wrong, it's the wrong way. But when you 13, 14 and you struggling and you know what I'm saying, and you going through that life, I don't care who, and I used to tell my preacher friends this: you could be the best preacher in the world. If I drop you off in the biggest ghetto and come back in a month or two, you're gonna be different. I don't care about how much you pray. I don't care about how many Bibles you read. You're gonna do what it takes to survive, right? That's human nature. We're gonna do what it takes to survive, and then we act like your environment don't got nothing to do. Your environment got everything to do with how you come out.
That's why they were constructed that way.
Yeah,
that's why they were constructed that way.
And as adults,
how powerful you are.
And as adults, we have to call that out, and we can't just keep blaming. We got to blame everybody. Like, you know what I'm saying? But when I talk to the little youngsters on the street corner, I want to talk to the grandma too. When I talk to the little youngster that's doing this and that, I want to talk to the mama and the daddy and the uncle too, because I don't see bad kids. Most kids I see, I be like, okay, I see where you come from. They tell me where they come from. When I see a kid acting out, cussing, doing this and that, I know exactly how your household getting ran and how you really function within that household. You get what I'm saying?
Of course.
So that's my only point. Not to point fingers, but I'm just saying to fix the problem, everybody got to be called out.
Of course. There takes a serious level of honesty that comes with that, and a lot of our people don't want to be honest today.
Yeah.
Okay. Especially those who may have failed and are trying to recreate their life or live a second life. You see what I'm saying? When we want to stick to the point about the elders and power, some of them don't want to speak truth to power. They don't walk it like they talk it. There are very few of us, regardless of age group, that walk it like we talk it. Okay, you're looking at a person that walks it like I talk it. I don't talk much about what I do until it's done. All right, so then it'll speak for itself. But some of our people before us and that have passed, They didn't walk it like they talk it. All right. It was designed. Things were designed around us for it to be that way, to destroy us. But we fell forward so much because we wouldn't even be alive or be here to be on this platform. All right. Or the internet that a black man had a hand in help create. You see, a foundation of Black American brother, Mark Davis, I believe his name was. You see what I'm saying? So we look at all aspects. And I've often said what you said. I haven't said it openly, but I'll say it openly now. When the media, and I'll use the media, we don't control any media, not even BET. Okay, we had it for a moment, and it wasn't that many years. I don't even think it was 10 years Robert Johnson had BET solely. And somebody can correct me on that. He may never had it completely. The point is that propaganda that comes out, that's not a bad word, okay, was shaping the minds of the youth at the time. Excuse me. We had things like Teen Summit. People can say what they want about hip-hop music. It was some of the most positive hip-hop that was coming out with Rap City and stuff like that. And they would have these panels having these types of discussion. I remember when they had Hillary Clinton on the panel on Teen Summit. I bugged out. I was like, oh, wow, that's kind of heavy. You know what I'm saying? My point about that is when there are so many forces tugging at us to destroy us that are not from within, the household, it's going to feel like it when you 15, 16, even when you're 30 years old and your mom and your daddy tell you ain't SHIT, you ain't going to be about nothing. You see what I'm saying? That how did it get there to them? It didn't get there to them because they were born that way. No. But then when it manifests itself into, like people like to say, Lil Pookie and Ray Ray that end up in jail, yeah, we do need to come back and say, okay, where did you fail? Nobody really wants to have. That's a very tough conversation to have, because all these people that folks are saying terrorize neighborhoods or do whatever they did in the gangster life or whatever they was doing, okay, human trafficking as they call it right now, or whatever they was doing that was so quote unquote bad. What do people that to help bring them in here? And some of these cats, even when they was on the run or out there doing some of the dirtiest work, they going back home to mama. You feel what I'm saying? Those elders, they cultivated some of that. You have to call it. Nobody wants to talk about that or have that conversation. You talked about the pastors and stuff in the community, right? Yes, a lot of that was taken out of the communities. A lot of, literally, I'm not saying figuratively. I know this for a fact, because if it happened in my little small hometown of Pensacola, Florida, and I'm hearing the same thing from my peers everywhere I go, where you had these programs that children like myself would link into, where you would take trips to Atlanta, or you would be with the youth center and you play baseball or whatever the case may be. And they would reach out to everybody in the community. You see what I'm saying? And we had actual city councilmen that will come out, and you would see them all the time. What happened? I juxtapose it and put it in similarity to what people, everybody in every age group can understand. And whether you like it or not, the current trending music is still hip hop. That's a fact. That's not even disputable. Okay. Whether you like it or not, I'm no fan of the current stuff. However, how do we get from the golden age in the mid 80s, like 87 to about 98, maybe even 99-ish, when there was so much positivity coming over the top? I mean, we was rocking. I still got my old school African medallion, from back in the day. I'm a little bit of an older head. You see what I'm saying? And all the consciousness that was coming out. And they were talking about these great master teachers. How did that stop? It stopped because we didn't own anything that was pressing the vinyl, that was pressing the CDs and the cassettes and stuff. The same thing happened in our communities. You know what we call it now? We call it gentrification. It was called redlining. Redlining wasn't just about you going and trying to buy a house and you being pushed away or your application getting torn up. No, it's about your community being destroyed deliberately. So when you started that era and you pulling the men out of the home in one way, shape, or form, whether you're in Akron, Ohio, and you're shutting down the Goodyear plant. I know my family know what I'm saying with that, or the Goodrich plant, or the factories that was in Los Angeles in the 40s. There's a great documentary, one of the greatest documentaries I've ever seen. It's called Bastards of the Party. You want to talk about the elders? You look at that documentary. It was an HBO documentary. It's probably about 20 years old right now. It's called Bastards of the Party. I saw that. I think I still got it on VHS from back in it. No, I got it on DVD. I got it on DVD. And you look at that, and it will tell you how the Bloods and Crips in Los Angeles, Southern California, was formed. Bastards of what party? The Black Panther Party. You see what I'm saying? So we talk about our elders from that era, just that era I'm talking about, that Black Power movement era. And then those that came before that had to impart some knowledge and wisdom and understanding upon them as well, for them to carry that forward. Then look what happened. There was a direct, not indirect, there was a direct force that came in to put a wedge right there in those communities. Yeah. And what came right after those gangs got started? And they didn't get started, to go beat up white people. They didn't get started to go robbing somebody. They were started, for protection, literally.
Yeah,
in
community.
The name of some of the gangs, Crips, community response in progress, or something to that effect. I think I got part of it right. You see what I'm saying? Then it morphed into something else. But you got to do a real timeline here, do the knowledge, as we say, do the timeline and say, okay, when it started morphing, what was happening? Let me tell you what was happening in the 70s. In the early 70s, scientists in the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA, was testing monkeys with crack cocaine. Literally, this is not hyperbole. People can do their Googles on that. It's still out there. Okay. And what communities did it hit? Oh, we ain't got to go that far. We can go right down the street. You see, I've always said crack cocaine was a megaton bomb that exploded in our communities across this country. Just crack cocaine alone, not powdered cocaine, not marijuana, not X, not meth, none of it. Crack cocaine, and it was deliberate. Okay, and it was deliberate where it came from. That's not something that's not a fact. You take that alone, and you'll see how devastating that has been, to where we're just barely coming out of some of that right now, and going back to hip hop is back then was saying that crack was whack, shut down the crack house, that type of stuff. Professor X and the Jamaican brother Shinehead, they had songs about this stuff. Or the Dogs back there in Florida had a song called Your Mama's on Crack Rock. We were talking about those things in our youth. But then again, what happened to pull that away from us? Those things happen. And even though they happen, you still have to take accountability for what happened in that household to even allow that to come out, the things to come out of there. The girls to get led astray and do whatever it is they're doing in the streets. The fellas as well, okay? You still have to take responsibility for that, because that good-hearted nature that's in you, you still have to have some of that spine of steel that our elders had. I often say this about our women, okay? Our women back in the day, and we losing some of that, okay? Our women back in the day, they didn't care about hurting your feelings. You know what I'm saying? They're going to cut it to you raw. You know what I'm saying? If you out there and you in the family and you coming around and you've been on that stuff, man, you need to get off that rock. They're going to tell you hard to your face. My grandmother would tell me, not that we dealt with that personally. I'm just saying they went straight down the middle. They ain't called balls. They called nothing but strikes, because they was hitting you right in your face with love, though.
Yes.
We lost that. We've lost a lot of that. Even the men, okay? Even the men. Good brother Phil Scott did a show talking about these brothers out here, and this is old, but it still has to be discussed. These brothers out here with purses. No, I ain't talking about a backpack. I ain't talking about nothing like this here. I ain't talking about no backpack. I'm talking about a My Little Pony green purse, strap on.
Yeah, purse. Yeah.
Purse. Even the crossbody stuff, you starting, for me, you starting to venture off. And I'm not even talking about a fanny pack. That's old school. The fanny packs that people
Yeah. We all had that
right,
back then.
No. These brothers went all the way left. all the way left, okay, with the skirts on and all that stuff. That was put out there, and it's still doing it to this day to disenfranchise our community, to emasculate those brothers and make everybody say, well, they getting money. Let me get on out here and do this and get me some money. Let me be a part of it.
And that goes back to where I feel like my point of view comes in, right? Mm-hmm. Because everything that we go through is going to go back to some kind of financial situation, you know. I have a conversation about guys when they said, we talk about the rap music and this and that. And like I always tell them, first of all, they only making that type of music because the system is paying for that type of music. So for us to combat that, we can't sit here, once again, from the moral point of view, telling kids, don't talk about that, don't rap about that, rap about this and that. First of all, when I was in the streets, I didn't start selling dope because of a rap song. I started selling dope because the guy right in front of me showed me how to make $100 like by just chilling. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't no rap song. So my environment pushed me that. Is it some kids that might not have had to go that route, but a song might have pushed them to do it? I'm sure. But especially the kids that I come up, the 80s babies that come up through the 90s, we wasn't doing that because of a rap song. Right. We was doing that because that was our real life. You know what I'm saying? Like, I tell the kids all the time, I didn't grow up wanting to be a gangster. I grew up and found out the stuff I was doing was gangster. I didn't I didn't have a strive to be. I wanted to be this hard gangster dude. I just look back and like, dang, okay, the way I was living, that's called gangster, I guess. You know what I'm saying? But that was the difference. Now these kids actually want to go that route and do that because it's commercialized. And the way we combat that is we gotta have these record labels. I had got in one of Dr. Boyce's comments one day, and he said, we went back and forth a little bit, but we talking about rap music. I'm like, well, we need guys like you to just go ahead and start a record label like him, and he always throwing D1 as like his godchild, right? And I ain't got no problem with D1, to each his own. Like I feel like sometimes he needs to go hard at these preachers. Like that's a street guy. So you come because to me that's like a guy that's not from my world, always telling us that we ain't nothing. But then when I look at your world, I'm looking at the crookedness. I'm looking at the billions of dollars that come through the church, and I'm looking at y'all ain't doing enough for the community either. I know most street guys that put in work for the community than the preachers. So that's when a guy that's when I gotta stand up and talk from the street guy point of view. That like, yeah, I'm quote unquote a street guy, but I don't see no preachers. I don't see no good guys doing what I do. You know what I'm saying? And it's not to keep score. This is just like real statistics, like this is what I see. This is my life. I've never seen it. You know what I'm saying? I'm 43 years old. I've never seen a progressive preacher in my community that was really putting in work. It was always the street guy giving out the turkeys. It was always the street guy giving out toys. It was always the street guy that was telling the kids to do right and do this. I've never seen a preacher in my life where I'm from. I'm not saying they're not out there. I said in my life, me personally seeing a preacher. I done seen crooked preachers. I done seen preachers sleeping with a lot of the people in the church. I you know what I'm saying? I done seen a lot of messy stuff with preachers. And I'm once again, I'm not talking about all preachers, but my only point is we got to start calling out all this instead of the low hanging fruit, the guy that's lost in the streets, the guy that's doing the illegal things, because CEO Youth League shouldn't be the first program in Temple where we teaching kids about entrepreneurship. This is 2025. I should not have the first program. I ain't talking about no summer camp, little fun days. I'm talking about real programs that build structure and teach these kids to go down a different path. I should not have the first program where I'm from in 2025. That right there says it. That says it all right there. You get what I'm saying?
It says a lot.
So out of all these good-hearted people, all these great men, these hardworking men, these church-going men, no one ever thought to let's come together and build something for these kids. No one ever thought that let's combat all of our congregation nieces and nephews going in and out of prison. No one ever thought let's figure out something. So that's what. But at the same time, I don't think they even think they have to think about it because we're too scared to call it out. That's why I feel like it's my job to start calling it out. Because most people are scared to call that. It goes the same when they say, well, black on black crime, and we just had that conversation. The guys need to start shooting themselves. shooting each other, this and that. I'm gonna always stand against that because we gotta build up our mindsets. We gotta build up our composure. So I'm gonna always go at my youngsters about that, right? But let's talk about the aunties and the moms that's feeding us all this bad food, because it's a direct correlation to all these bad foods that we raised up on and fighting and shooting and killing and like my mentor said, you'll never see a shootout at a whole food store. You know what I'm saying? You're always gonna find one at the chicken house. You know, all these places with a lot of grease and a lot of, you see what I'm saying? That's where you feel all the trauma and stuff at. So we got to understand it's a lifestyle. So you can say, well, I fed you bad food. I didn't give you the game. I did this. I didn't do this. I didn't show you how to survive, but I sent you to church. That's not enough. You can't do everything wrong and say, well, I sent you to church. That should have figured it out. No, we can't let our elders get away with that. And a lot of our elders live off that. They live off that, well, I morally try to teach you how to do right, and you went down the wrong road. No, I went down the wrong road because I ain't had no other roads. You told me to be submissive, go to school, and go get a job. You didn't tell me if I go to school and get straight A's, I still might not have a job. You didn't tell me that I can be smarter and work harder than the white person, my counterpart, and they're gonna get the job over me. You didn't teach me about none of this other stuff. You just told me to be good, be quiet, and work hard. But you can still work hard all your life and end up with nothing. And I see that too many times from Black hardworking men. It breaks my heart. One of the things that break my heart, I'm gonna pass it back to you, is when I see a man that's been working hard all his life, broke down, and still 67 years old and cannot afford to quit. That's heartbreaking.
It is,
and that's a good man, right? And there's nothing disparaging towards that man. But what do you think his kids, his grandkids, what do you think his lineage is doing? If he's at 7 years old, cannot stop working because he got to pay bills, just think about the offsprings of that. I can guarantee you it's some struggle somewhere down the line. It's some grandsons going in and out the prison down the line. It's some dysfunctional, and not to say that he wanted that, but he didn't have the concept and the mindset to really empowering his family. You see what I'm saying?
Of course.
And so you know, I'm gonna pitch it to you, man. I said a lot there.
No, you was cooking. The information is out there. It's been out there. Okay. What we do with that information is on us to turn it into some knowledge, create wisdom and understanding. That's first and foremost. So it's been out there. It's out there. Okay. Stocks have been out there. Some things we didn't have access to or means to get wasn't necessarily at our hands. And I'll use stocks, for instance. Okay. So that brother that you mentioned, this brother that we talking about, who's worked all his life, he can't quit. He dies on the job to a degree. Okay. Sometimes literally die on the job. And all that they may leave a piece of a life insurance. Maybe. Then everybody got to fight over that, like everybody's hungry fight for scraps for that. Was there at the time in that person's adult life, could they get fractional shares? No. That's a concept that just came about in the last decade. Okay. So that means the average person doesn't have an excuse not to at least put a little something on the stock. However, we had the penny savings and loans that we started. We meaning Foundational Black Americans started. So we had a thing going in our own community. All right. That morphed off into two other things. Like we had the numbers game up in Harlem that came into what? The lotto. Literally. That's not figuratively speaking. You see what I'm saying? We have to take control at our own level on what we can do individually. All right. Is each individual to say, how am I going to do this? Am I not selfish enough to not want to pay it forward with what I'm doing?
Yeah.
That's a mindset now. I see a lot of brothers and sisters that have courses on mindset. They have YouTube shows about mindset and stuff like that. And I skip right past them. And it's not to say that what they're saying isn't solid or it can't benefit anyone. I was already there. I was there since a child, not only with my upbringing, but with my own mindset, the way that I was brought here. You know what I'm saying? So some people need that, no matter the age. And it may just take something different as long as they're willing to change and have an open mind. Those who don't want to have an open mind, they're gonna be, like I always say, high grass for the lawnmower. And some of them want to be.
Yeah.
Some people don't want to do some of the hard things to get to a certain position in life, whether they're going to see it or they're not going to see it. Sister Nicely had something she brought up about the a reparations meeting out there in California last week. And if I've heard this once, I've heard it 1,000 times. Okay. Of course, Governor Gavin Newsom, he vetoed 4 of the 5 bills that came up to him about reparations. One of them they creating some type of group that's going to do another freaking study. Yeah, waste the doggone time. Okay, he just, okay, y'all ain't going to do nothing. Let me go and get this out of my face. Mm-hmm. What she brought up is when they were having a discussion at this town hall meeting, some of the elders, and I want to make sure I put this word in the lexicon, elders, not elders. Elders are wise. They're going to impart their wisdom, even if they ain't got no money. They're going to give you so much game, you're going to feel like you worth $1 million.
For sure. Okay?
My father, my mother, my dearly departed mother, my grandmothers, so much game. My aunts who still living, okay? Uncles who passed. My point is this. Some of the elders were sitting there arguing. You know what they was arguing about? Man, we need to get our check now. That ain't enough money. I ain't going to be able to get it. That type of thing. We got to deal with the riffraff in our community. There's a lot of riffraff we got to deal with. Okay. And how do we deal with them? Some of them, you can deal with them with love. All right, brother. Okay. Go on about your way now. You ain't got time for that. And some of them, you got to deal with a little rough. Hey, we ain't got you ain't built for this conversation. Close the door. Let's get with some people.
You gotta be real with it. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to, and whoever they are, that's the tough part right there. Whoever they are, it doesn't matter. You ain't built for this conversation. And I'm so glad to bring this around because now, you know, you asked me what I was looking at earlier and I was a little disturbed. I'll tell you about it. I ain't going to go too deep into it.
Yeah.
But some of the folks from the quote unquote conscious era, Black Power era, they're going to be considered elders now. That people may look at me like that. I got called an OG when I was 30. I was like, man, I'm 30 years old. I'm much older than 30 now. You know, the beard is showing it. My point is, just because you've attained, whether it's wealth, whether it's knowledge, land, whatever, you can be wrong as well. You can be wrong in the direction that you're leading the community. The community, your family, your people. You can be wrong. Okay? And what does wrong mean? Wrong means how it's going to benefit in the long run. Not right now, not what you did in the past for people, because those things are most likely great. And I'm not going to call any names or disparage anyone of prominence. However, we know where the shoe fits. There are people that are still out there. Okay, think about and not even to put it on our community as Black folks, the foundation of Black Americans. Just look at the powers in Congress right now.
Yeah.
Okay, there ain't a whole bunch of 30-year-olds running around there. You see what I'm saying? They refuse. They got to master grip on the reins of power. Mm-hmm. You got to get in there and say, no, you're going to get up out of here. Okay. You're for counsel, but not when I say for counsel, it goes back to what I mentioned last week. Young men for war, older men for counsel. Mm-hmm. Okay. For wise counsel. That doesn't mean you have to sit in the seat. And war doesn't necessarily mean you're out on the street so you have a weapon in your hand in a foreign land. No. That's not completely it. We have to understand what that war mentality means. Like, yes, you may have to physically take up arms, but you may have to go deal with someone in a boardroom. You need the young minds in there to bring fresh ideas and ideals in there. Your ideas may be stale, brother. And they may not be for what's going on right now and the things that we have to combat, brother or sister. And you dig what I'm saying? We got to tell some of you mentioned the pastors. You got to let them know. Real, I hear you. Master the Bible. And some, it's some winos that can preach Bible better than pastors.
Yeah, for sure. You know
what I'm saying? It's people that can do way more than you give them credit for. I never disparage anybody for the position they're in life. Because I don't know where I could possibly be there if things just flipped around and turned around.
Yeah.
Look at Dr. Cosby. People don't know where Dr. Bill Cosby, the position that brother was in. You want to talk about billionaire? He was a multi-millionaire in the 60s. And he still had to go to prison for some nonsense. People say what they want. Okay. You ain't got to argue with me. Argue with the paperwork. All right. In comparison to his peers that have done way worse.
Yeah.
And he didn't rape anybody. Okay. I'm going to just put that out there because I stand firmly on what I said, the same thing, same way. Some things you just don't cut with. I don't cut with that, and I don't cut with OJ. And I wasn't a fan of OJ. He didn't kill them people. He didn't go. It don't work. The evidence is all there. My point in saying all that is, you know, some people that'll stick around and they'll still be around. There'll be a thorn in your side or a rock in your doggone shoe. You gotta call. I don't care how much you love.
You gotta call them out.
You see what I'm saying?
And see, that's like, especially like, I did that a lot this last go around with the politics, and I do it on everything, but that's part of it. And that's my problem. That's why I started that question started coming to my mind. Like, did some of our elders failed us? Because we have elders that still tell us to keep doing the same thing, even though it hasn't worked.
Correct.
Like, and to me, I'm a person that's trying to win. So like, I could have a game plan last year and have been to change it up this year if I found a better strategy and a way to win. So to me, if you're still pushing a losing strategy to your people, I have to call you out on it, because now I started saying, do you really love your people the way you do? Or are you so selfish that you'll mess your people over just to preach your belief? And that's what a lot of we do. A lot of us are stuck into our mindset and our belief, and we don't care how damaging it is to our people. This is what I've been believing all my life, and this is what I'm gonna die believing.
That's right.
That's enemy. That's enemy. You treading on enemy lines now. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. That's right.
You feel what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. The same person that we could say is harmless and got a great heart to our community, when you start looking at the real stats of what have you done, what have you been preaching, what have you produced in our community, you start, you start looking enemy-ish. You know what I'm saying? This is something that I know our community don't talk about a lot, and that's why I want to be the one that talk about it, because we'll talk about everything else. I'm talking about everybody else. Every other bad aspect of our community, we'll talk about over and over and over again. We won't never talk about, like, well, everybody I know come from a church background. Everybody I know was into this and was into the sports. That's why I'm working on a documentary called Sports Live Tours. I'm actually attacking all the things that we praise, and I know people are gonna hate when I drop a documentary called Sports Live Tours. Because we love sports so much
in Texas.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, but is sports really producing? And I had a lady actually tell me this. So you worried about the 99%? What about the 1% that do make it? I said, man, just listen to what you just said. So you want me to focus on the
less question?
But I was told. But this shows you the deep programming.
For sure.
The deep programming tells you, I don't care if most of us fail. Let's hold up this one person and just live off that. We can't do that. That's a failing strategy for our people. For sure. You're sacrificing most of your community for that one person that might make it. Yeah. And it's not even nothing bad against that one person. I'm saying the mindset will say, if we change up the way we programming our kids, either more gonna make it, or the 99% that don't make it gonna be way better off, because we didn't program them to understand. They know the war that they at. They know that, like, the kids that mentor, I tell them straight up. And a lot of programs around here don't really come together with me, because I tell kids, most of y'all will never make it, and they feel like that's like demoralizing to the kids. I'm being real with them.
That's right.
Because these same kids gonna love me to death at 16, 17. Because I meet a lot of kids that didn't realize till 19 that, hold on, I've been told since I was 2 that I'm going to the NFL.
That's right.
Everybody lied to me.
Yes.
Like, and everybody know it. Like, I had one kid tell me they're gonna be a LeBron James, and I'm like, bro, your mama's 5 foot, your daddy 5'3". I can promise you ain't gonna, you know what I'm saying? But like I told him, I said I can show you how to be LeBron James without a basketball, though.
Hello.
You see what I'm saying? Because we talk about LeBron James. We talk about LeBron James on the court. LeBron James is a beast off the court. You know what I'm saying? You know how much money him and his people
Right.
making off the court? But
His-
see, our
he
kids
on
are
his
not.
part.
Our kids are not even fed that. They only fed the basketball side. So
For
if
sure.
they don't make it, so that they don't make it on their side, they feel like they're a failure.
Mhm.
Where that comes from? That comes from the mom and the dad and the grandma and the first child. The first thing you give them when they born is a basketball or football. What if the first thing you give them is just a conversation about investing? Just as a kid, just rocking them. I got investments for you right now, baby. You know what I'm saying? I got a coloring book already in your name. You already a published author right now. As a kid, I put your name as an executive writer on. Like, that's the type of stuff I'm talking about from birth. If we pour that into our kids from birth, other than that football, what would our community look like?
And it don't cost much.
Don't cost nothing. That's just everything I said was free. That's just conversation to a baby. Even if you
want to do the book, it costs less than you're gonna have to pay for Youth League.
Yeah.
Just keep it real. But they don't see the fruits of that coming out right now. They think they're going to cultivate this child into be a superior athlete. Let's just stick with that sports theme for a moment.
Yeah.
Okay. That superior athlete, by not telling them the absolute truth or showing them the documentary that ESPN did called Money, heavy hit. If you have never seen that, man, that's a heavy one. Oh, man. Yeah, they did that. And they ain't showed it a whole lot because it didn't just focus on Black folks. You see what I'm saying? Even though we dominate the sports, it talked about Bernie Kosar from back in the Cleveland Brown days. He talked about how his dad duped him out of money, this, that, and the third, because, I always tell folks, you're that age. Someone you've earned $1 million contract. Okay. Millions of dollars in the contract. Where's the financial responsibility going to be at? You know where it's going to be at? Well, we took you to practice and this, that, and the third, or whatever the case may be. There are not that many stories about like a Grant Hill when his dad was, I forget his dad's name, but he played with the Dallas Cowboys. He imparted wisdom into his son, who was a basketball player. And then other people who had, there are different stories that come out of that, but that's only the 1%. Yeah. And what is that 1% going to do directly for you? No, you shouldn't expect anything from them. And you shouldn't be living vicariously through them. See, that's the part that's a problem that we got. And I realized this later on because I was a fan. And I don't like to use the word fan, but I like LeBron James as a brother. I was like, man, he out there doing it. And the business part and the part from what I saw as a man, I'm like, dude, he's all right. He's going to give him back, get the school up there, this, that, and the third. I got family in Akron. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, oh, man, that brother out there getting it. But what I come to find out is with all the accomplishments he had on the court, the media had created this online society of what people like to call bronze sexuals. Like the brother can't do no wrong. And in comparison, putting him up against Michael Jordan, which there is no comparison, on the court. And now Jordan called him even off the court. And I'm going to tell you about that in a moment. A lot of people don't want to talk about. Okay. Because Bron himself even said, God dang, I ain't did that. The point is, you get people that turn out. That's why I don't like the term fan, because it's short for fanatic. You become fanatical about that person and put them up as a deity, like a Christ-like figure, when they haven't done anything that's Christ-like, literally. Okay. Yes, they may have saved some lives here or there, helped people out here or there, got them through school. I get it. However, you don't ever put that onus in a human being, man, in my opinion. That's me talking. You see what I'm saying? And I juxtapose that and come back and say, when you look at that, how did this come? Because this is a whole generation of kids and grown men that look at this brother this way. You see, they're infatuated by this brother. How did this come about? It ain't just because of these things right here. Nothing. It ain't just because that. Where would the father to impart wisdom and say, slow down, hold on, Santa Claus right here, homie. You know what I'm saying? That's why I don't like to talk personal too much. But I knew from day one when my son was born 28 years ago, all right, Santa Claus, you're looking at him. Santa and Mama Claus. No such thing. You know what I'm saying? My parents pretty much did the same thing to a degree. Yeah, we played. You played into it, right? Charity starts at home. And that's where you're talking about when you bring up this discussion about elders. That's where the power is at, because they're going to impart that power within you. The part that you say you don't even have to pay for, you rocking them. You imparting that knowledge, that wisdom, that knowledge into them to turn into wisdom. That wisdom is coming from you. You see what I'm saying? That's what you're doing. That don't cost nothing. That's that good moral that could come out of that, even if you ain't got much. Yeah. Keep that mind open to say, well, yeah, I know that I buffed floors for 30 years. I was the buffing boss. Okay, I might not have created the buffer, but I buffed floors, at the bowling alley for 30 years. I got me a pension. I helped get you through school. And don't just tell them that that's the only way. You see, it's a way, not the way.
The way, yeah.
It's a way, not the way. And to even put down and disparage those that have, gone a different path. I don't even like to say a bad path when you talk about people that have went into the streets. I'm not even going to say that. Okay. They are not only are they a quote unquote product of their environment, everything in their proximity may have been destroyed. And even if they come from a 2-parent household, what was destroyed up here?
Oh, yeah.
How were they nurtured, talked to? It ain't just about some people, I've seen it online for years. Oh, that brother wasn't hugged. He might not even been told that he's going to be something. When you said what you said earlier, I don't know if you saw me cringe when you said somebody would, loved ones would tell you, you're going to end up in jail. You ain't going to be SHIT. Ooh, you know how powerful that is? Mm-hmm. Okay, and I'm gonna keep it real. It's more powerful and more painful when it comes from a woman. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that's where you said it come from. Okay, because they can impart something in you, or help you turn a key within yourself to say, "Oh, I got something in me to keep me going." Always got mama. See, the dope boys always had mama too. Let's keep it real. Mm-hmm. She hid some of them keys, huh? She told the police you was going somewhere else when you was hiding in the basement somewhere. So which way we gonna look at this? We're gonna look at it from every way. And I want to be clear about this, not to the degree to where we disparage the community, like some of the people that's out there that's doing it for clout. Okay, the Charleston Chews of the world, Anton Daniels. I'm gonna call some names, okay, because that I call it a certain ideology of where you just want to talk about the underbelly of call out the underbelly. Okay, call it out when it's necessary. I get it, but all the time? Oh no, okay. Yeah, you want to keep it real about certain things. I understand that. It's the same conversation we're having now, because it all comes back to what power are you gaining from that? How does it get back to make you powerful?
Show me. That's the easiest thing to do is just kind of like talk about the worst of the Black community, and now with our delineation, we got to make sure when you sound about the worst of the Black community, is it the Black community? Because I see a lot of things now that I'll be like, okay, it's a Black. Oh no, I look, it wasn't. So it ain't on us, And that's just me being real. Like I actually checked that, and I wasn't doing that 3, 4, 5 years ago. I would just see black. Now I realize, oh no, that person that did that sick stuff, they ain't got nothing to do with us. Not to say that we ain't got some foundational Black Americans that do dumb stuff and sick stuff too, but I'm starting to realize a lot of that ain't us. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying. A lot of that ain't
a large amount. Yeah,
we gotta speak on that, man. But this like I said, this was gonna be a part one of this, man, because we can keep going on. And like I say, I always want to big up the elders, but I feel like the only way to move forward is to have uncomfortable conversations. And if we can never tell our elders, because we always talk to, and I love the age I'm at. I'm 43, right? So I'm in the trenches with the youngsters, trying to build them up, because I remember being there, right?
Right.
But I'm close to the elders, because I understand that I was a little sick like them youngsters, but I done got over that bridge. But but then I'm looking at them like, you might think they're sick and they're out of control, but I'm looking at you and I'm like, but you ain't done nothing to keep them from being sick. So I'm in the middle, like I'm trying to pull the youngsters on, but I'm trying to let the elders know that, hey, y'all failed us in a lot of ways, so y'all need to come back and be a little reinforcement. Quit pointing your fingers, come on back, and we can tie this stuff together. I'm not saying it like us against them, never that. Right. It's a that, okay, we're gonna call out every side and we're gonna sit down with the people that really want to make some change. You know what I'm saying? And if you don't want to make no change, that's cool. I'm gonna call you out, just like I'm gonna call the street guy out that don't want to listen and want to keep doing dumb stuff. Just the same way I call him out, I'm gonna call the preacher that talk all this stuff, but I can't never get a meeting with. The preacher the preacher that won't never show up to a community event. The preacher that won't sign on a dotted line to let's do a group study or something together. Let's do something for the. I'm gonna call you out and say, yeah, I done sat down without every black church and temple. You know, I sit down with every black church and temple. There's not one youth program. I'm gonna say that publicly, and they know I'm not lying. So it's not to say you bad people. It's to say, okay, call me and let's put some programs together. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And I'm not gonna be scared to say that. And if I'm lying, tell me I'm lying. Like I always tell people, like if I say the truth and it hurts your feelings, I ain't got nothing to do with that. If I'm lying, call me out. If you ever heard me tell a lie, good brother, call me out on that. But if it's something that's truthful that might hurt somebody's feelings, I can't do nothing about that. That's something they got to figure out on their own. You see what I'm saying? And that's the attitude we got to have, because that's the only way to better us. I gotta be able to tell the dude on the street corner, you tripping, you bugging out. You need to do this, just like I'm gonna tell a preacher, you tripping, you bugging out. But see that, everybody's eyes get big when you say that to the preacher, though. You know what I'm saying? But like I say, but that's my point of view, man. So like I say, this is the part one of it. I think we're gonna have some more. And you know what I would like to do? I got some good preacher, buddy. I would like to have a preacher or two come on. Let's have. Because, like I say, this not nothing to disparage or go at nobody. This is about, we're gonna call everybody out and we're gonna sit down and figure out a solution. That's what we on. We not on no, you know what I'm saying? Because I could be called out.
Ain't none of that.
It's things that I tell myself in the mirror that I need to do better at. So everybody got some blame. Everybody can be called out.
Absolutely, that's accountability piece.
That's the conversation I want, man. But I'm gonna give you the last word of the night, man. Just tell let me know how you feel about the conversation. We're gonna continue this conversation. I don't know what part two will be about, but I definitely I'm gonna reach out to a couple of my preacher guys. I'm gonna reach out to some good quote unquote community guys, and we're gonna have this conversation.
It's a great one to have. So when you brought it up, and we talked about this before you even brought it up last week. We had long discussions about this and sports and all the other things that quote unquote lied to us, to a degree. So no, this is a very, very powerful conversation to have, as long as someone can take something from this and build on it. That's the biggest piece right there. So if the brothers, or even a woman can be a pastor nowadays, sister come on and want to have a discussion on, why things happen, why they didn't happen. We could talk about the past. We could talk about what's going on right now, but what we're going to do when we finish having this conversation. All right. If someone, that's just from my standpoint, anybody that wants to have a serious discussion, let's have one. Because let's just keep it a buck, brother. We ain't never physically met. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't take that nowadays. It doesn't take me to be directly in your community. I got a good brother that's a congressman in Mississippi. Okay. I've contributed to, you want to talk about somebody doing the work, that brother out there doing the work, food drives, backpack, all the stuff that you're doing. You see what I'm saying? So I don't live where he lived. We served together. He's a former soldier just like I am. Okay. Former sergeant major just like I am. And he said he was running. I said, man, you got my support. You live in a whole different state. It don't take us to have to be right up under each other to affect change right now. Things have changed. This ain't the Pony Express where you got to send a telegram. You did, but even to send money, it take you 2 seconds to get something via Cash App, or know somebody in the area to lend a helping hand.
Just sharing this anything. Yeah.
It doesn't take much. So when I see that these things are not happening, okay, from people that are quote unquote, that's why I don't necessarily like the term, and I come out of an organization that did nothing but talk about leadership and leaders. When you place that tag on somebody, that's a heavy responsibility. You got to carry that. Okay. Heavy is the head that wears that crown, and leadership is one of those things. Don't quote me as your leader or a leader of anything. No, the code is supposed to be the leader. The code, what's the code? Being constructive, man. How are we going to be constructive in we're constructive in this conversation that we're having, because we're peeling back the onion and say, okay, here's some things that happen that we need to deal with and talk about. And hopefully someone can take something from this and say, you know what?
I like that.
Yeah, Unc was wrong on that one, but I love him. I just want to have a conversation with him about what he said. I got some different ideas and understanding on how we can do this thing, or help me understand. And what people will be surprised about when we talk about our elders in closing is they're waiting on you. Some of them are waiting on you. Okay. And I'm talking directly to whoever sees this. Some of those elders are waiting on you, whoever you are. And I'm gonna get a little deep for a moment. Just bear with me for a second. Some of them ain't here. No? Can we go there? Some of the elders ain't here, physically here. We tap in. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna leave it right there and just say tap into that. You tap into that, especially the ones that are here. You will be surprised and amazed what they know and what they have. Now, whether they want to give it to you or do what you're doing or provide anything beneficial, take what you can take from that. Take whatever you can take, but they waiting on you. And that's what I say in closing, brother. You still there with me? You went. Your screen went off. Uh-oh. You might have had a freeze. He had a new computer there. So he'll be back in a moment, I'm sure. But that's what I want to leave with the family tonight is, what are you going to do? How are you going to move forward with everything that we discussed? We discussed a lot of stuff. Yep, he dropped out, and it's all good. But I'm going to probably close it out here in a moment. My good brother, I knew he was having some computer issues before. Let me see if he hit me up. Hold on, y'all. Give me a second. He probably going to hit me here in a minute. But I'm going to wait on him for a moment or two and continue on just for a moment, for about 2 or 3 minutes, and see if he comes back in, because I want to definitely close the show out the right way. And I'm going to touch on this one topic, because if you notice, listen to our good brother, he talked about where he's from, the things that he's dealing with in his community. He is actually